No, no, this can't be happening, the poor nurse whispered as she staggered backward, her latex-gloved hands trembling violently. The billionaire, silent for 17 months, unmoving, unblinking, was suddenly staring straight at her. His eyes, once empty like a forgotten well, were now wide open, watching her. She froze. Her clipboard slipped from her hand and clattered against the cold hospital floor, but she couldn't move, couldn't blink, couldn't even breathe. She had seen patients twitch before. Reflexes. Muscle spasms. But this was different. The man in the bed, the one everyone believed would never wake again, sat up. Slowly. Like someone rising from underwater. His chest rose sharply as he took his first full breath in more than a year, the sound echoing across the dimly lit ward. The nurse's heart slammed against her ribs. She wanted to scream, but her voice was stuck somewhere deep in her throat. "Sir, can you hear me?" she whispered, barely audible. His lips parted. And then, his hand shot forward. He grabbed her wrist. The kind of grip that shouldn't be possible for a man who hadn't moved in months. She gasped and stumbled toward him, almost falling onto the bed. His fingers tightened around her wrist, pulling her closer until her face hovered just inches from his. His eyes were full of something she couldn't name, terror, desperation, and recognition all at once. Then he whispered, his voice raw and ragged, as if dragged from a burning place. "Don't let them near me." The nurse's body went cold. Completely cold. Her throat tightened as she tried to steady herself. "Don't let who near you?" she asked, trembling. But instead of answering, he wrapped his arms around her and held her tight, gripping her like a drowning man clinging to a piece of wood. His breathing grew heavier, panicked, as if he were reliving something she couldn't see. "Please," he whispered into her shoulder. "Don't leave me alone with them again." She didn't know what to do. Her training said, call the doctor, alert the ward, press the emergency button. But every instinct in her body told her that something terrible, something deep and hidden, was happening behind the walls of the billionaire's life. His fingers dug into the fabric of her scrubs. His body shook like a child waking from a nightmare. She hesitated, torn between comfort and terror. "Sir," she said slowly, "you're safe here. You're in Memorial General Hospital. You've been unconscious for a long time. You just woke up. You're safe." But he shook his head violently. "No," he rasped. "No, I'm not. They know I'm awake now." As if on cue, the hallway lights flickered. Her stomach tightened. Before she could respond, the billionaire's body suddenly jerked. His grip loosened, his arms fell back onto the sheets, and he slumped sideways, gasping. The cardiac monitor beside him went wild. "Help! I need help in here," she shouted, finally finding her voice. She bolted to the wall and slammed the emergency button. Alarms blared, loud and piercing. Doors flew open, and 3 nurses rushed in, followed by 2 doctors. "What happened? What's going on?" one doctor demanded. "He woke up," she breathed. "He woke up, he talked to me, he held me." The doctor didn't let her finish. "Step back, nurse," he ordered. "Let us work." She backed away, but her eyes never left the billionaire. He wasn't speaking anymore. His eyes were glassy again. His breathing shallow. It was almost as if that moment, those few seconds of awakening, had drained every last drop of strength left inside him. A doctor leaned over him, checking his pupils. "They're responsive," he muttered. "My God, he might actually be coming out of it." The other staff members exchanged shocked glances. Everyone in this hospital had given up on him long ago. The billionaire, owner of one of the largest construction empires in the country, a man whose name turned boardrooms silent, had been brought here after a mysterious highway crash that no one ever understood. The police claimed it was an accident. The public believed it was fate. But the nurse, after what she had just heard, she now wondered if something far darker was involved. As the medical team worked frantically over him, she felt her knees weaken. She leaned against the wall to keep from collapsing. A senior nurse approached her quietly. "Take a moment outside," she whispered. "You look pale." "I'm fine," the poor nurse replied, though her voice shook. I just I wasn't prepared. No one would be. But step out for air. We've got him. She nodded and slowly walked toward the door, but before she exited she turned for one last look. And that's when she saw it. The billionaire wasn't unconscious. His eyes were slightly open, just barely, and he was staring at her. Not the doctors. Not the monitors. But that wasn't the terrifying part. The terrifying part was the silent message in his eyes. Don't trust them. She stumbled into the hallway, gripping her chest. What did he mean? Who was he talking about? Who was them? And why did he hold her like his life depended on it? She had no answers. Not yet. But she was about to discover that waking up the billionaire wasn't the miracle everyone thought it was. It was the beginning of a storm. A storm that would swallow her life whole. A storm she could never have imagined. A storm that began with a whisper. Don't let them near me. The hospital corridor was quiet, too quiet. The poor nurse walked slowly, her palms damp, her mind racing. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead, but that wasn't what bothered her. It was the billionaire's eyes. They were still open. Still watching her. Still warning her. She reached the end of the hallway, pushed open the staff room door, and collapsed into the nearest chair. Her breath left her in short, uneven bursts. She pressed both hands against her face, trying to calm the tremor building inside her. She had been a nurse for 6 years. She had seen patients wake up from comas before, not many, but enough to know the pattern. They didn't talk immediately. They didn't grip with force. And they certainly didn't whisper warnings like characters from a nightmare. The staff room door creaked open and her friend stepped inside. There you are, her friend said gently. You look like you've seen a ghost. The nurse stared blankly at the floor. He woke up. Her friend frowned. Of course he woke up. We heard the monitors. The whole ward is buzzing. No, the nurse swallowed hard. I mean he woke up. He looked straight at me. He grabbed me. Held me. Spoke to me. Her friend froze. Wait, he spoke. The nurse nodded slowly. He said not to let them near him. The word lingered between them like a cold draft. Her friend let out a nervous laugh. He just woke up from a coma. Patients say strange things when they're disoriented. Don't let it get to you. But the nurse shook her head. That wasn't confusion. He was terrified. Silence settled heavy in the room. Her friend took a step closer. Look, take a moment, wash your face. Dr. Clarkson wants to meet with the staff who were present during the incident. He said it's important. The nurse stiffened. He wants to talk to me? Her friend nodded. He said specifically that he needs you. Something about that made her uneasy. Dr. Clarkson rarely needed anyone. He was efficient, clinical, detached. The kind of doctor who acted like emotions were bacteria, dangerous and unnecessary. I'll be there, she murmured. Her friend left the room, and the nurse walked toward the sink. She splashed cold water on her face, leaned close to the mirror, and stared at her reflection. You're overthinking this, she told herself. He's scared. That's all. But even as she tried to convince herself, something in her gut twisted. Instinct was louder than logic. And her instinct told her trouble was creeping in like smoke. A few minutes later, she walked into the small conference room. Dr. Clarkson stood near the window, his back to her, reading from a clipboard. His posture was stiff and oddly tense. You wanted to see me? She asked quietly. He turned slowly, offering a tight smile. Just sit. She sat. He didn't. What exactly did he say when he woke up? Dr. Clarkson asked, his tone clipped, too focused. The nurse hesitated. He said not to let them near him. Them? Dr. Clarkson repeated, eyebrow raised. Did he clarify who he meant? No. Did he appear frightened? Just very. Dr. Clarkson tapped his pen against the clipboard rhythmically. Too rhythmically. And how long was he conscious? A few seconds. Maybe a minute. He nodded, scribbling something. And then he collapsed. Or shut down. I'm not sure. Another scribble. Another nod. Good, he said finally. You've done well. Now listen carefully. Say nothing to anyone outside the staff. No patients, no visitors. Do you understand? She stiffened. Why? It's standard procedure, he replied flatly. But she knew that tone. That wasn't standard procedure. That was control. Before she could respond, someone knocked on the door. Dr. Clarkson opened it a crack and spoke in a low voice with whoever was outside. The nurse leaned slightly forward, trying to hear, but the voices were hushed. Then she saw something. A hand, a man's hand, slipped into view through the doorway. On the wrist was a bracelet she recognized instantly. Black beaded bracelet. Gold charm. The symbol of the Billionaire's company. She'd seen it hundreds of times on posters, commercials, and advertisements. It was his signature accessory. But it wasn't the billionaire wearing it now. It was someone else. Someone standing outside the door. Someone Dr. Clarkson didn't want her to see. The nurse's heartbeat thudded against her chest. The door shut again. Dr. Clarkson turned to her, his face stiff. We're done. That was someone from his company, she said quietly. Dr. Clarkson blinked. How do you know that? I saw the bracelet. Dr. Clarkson cleared his throat sharply. Go back to your duties, nurse. And remember what I said, say nothing. It wasn't a suggestion. It was an order. She stood slowly, feeling a cold ripple down her spine. She walked out of the conference room and down the hallway. But as she passed the corner, she froze again. 3 men in dark suits stood outside the billionaire's room. Not police. Not family. Not medical staff. Corporate. And not just any corporate men. These ones had the cold, sharp look of men who do not visit hospitals out of concern. Men who visit to control. Men whose faces hid secrets. Men who made her feel danger without even speaking. One of them looked up and caught her staring. His expression didn't change, but his eyes narrowed, marking her as if thinking. So she's the one who spoke to him. She turned away quickly, her breath hitching. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. And the billionaire knew it. Just as she reached the nurse's station, her phone buzzed. She pulled it out and saw an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A whisper came through the speaker. Don't trust anyone in that building. Her blood froze. Who is this? She whispered. But the voice hung up. Her hand shook uncontrollably. The billionaire wasn't the only one in danger. She was too. And now, someone out there wanted her to know. End of chapter 2. Here is your first placement for audience engagement, as requested. If you're following this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more gripping African folktales. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? The nurse didn't sleep that night. She couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the billionaire's trembling hands gripping her wrist, felt his arms locking around her, heard that raw, broken whisper. Don't let them near me. And now the phone call. The strange voice warning her to trust no one. Who was that? How did they get her number? Why call her? By the time the sun rose, she was exhausted, jittery, running on fear and instinct. She put on her scrubs with trembling hands and took the early bus to the hospital, watching every stranger too closely, jumping at every sound. When she stepped into the ward, the atmosphere was different. Quieter. Heavier. Colder. Her friend rushed toward her. You're here early, she whispered. Have you heard? Or what? The nurse's heart kicked up. What happened? She asked. They moved him. Her stomach dropped. Moved him? Where? To a private wing on the 8th floor. No, the nurse breathed. No, he was stable. They shouldn't move him. That's what I thought too, her friend whispered, leaning closer. But the men from last night, they came back. They ordered the transfer. Dr. Clarkson approved it. The nurse grabbed the edge of the desk to steady herself. The 8th floor wasn't a standard patient area. It was special access, restricted, usually for VIPs, political figures, and cases involving high-profile security. If he was there, then things were far more serious than she realized. She took a deep breath. I have to check on him. Her friend caught her arm. Be careful. Those men, they don't look like they want questions. But the nurse didn't need the warning. She felt it already. Every instinct in her body screamed danger. She took the elevator up, her heart pounding. When the doors opened onto the 8th floor, she stepped out into a hallway that felt nothing like a hospital. Dim lights. No nurses walking around. No beeping machines. Just silence. And men in suits. 2 stood near the entrance of the ward, their stance firm, their eyes cold. One of them spotted her approaching. "Staff only," he said. "I am staff," she replied, forcing confidence she didn't feel. "I'm here to check on the patient who arrived this morning. He regained consciousness under my care yesterday." They exchanged a long look. The second man stepped closer, towering over her. "Name," she told him. He typed it into his tablet slowly, too slowly, as if intentionally making her wait. Finally, he nodded. "The doctor said you might come." That surprised her. "Go in," he said. "But don't touch him unless instructed. And don't talk too long." A chill crawled up her spine. She stepped past them into the dim ward. There were only 4 beds in the whole room, luxurious beds that looked more like something from a private suite than a hospital. The billionaire was in the far corner, surrounded by new machines she had never seen in this facility before. Machines that hummed softly, blinking with complex readings. She approached quietly. His eyes were open. Not wide, not alert, just slightly open, the way someone might peek from sleep. "Sir?" she whispered. His eyes shifted toward her. Alive. Conscious. Barely. Relief washed over her so intensely she almost cried. "You're awake? Thank God," she breathed. He didn't speak, not yet. But his fingers twitched weakly toward her. She moved closer. Then his lips parted slightly. "Came back," he whispered, voice scratchy, barely formed. "Of course I came." She swallowed. "I needed to check on you. Are you in pain?" He shook his head weakly. "Did they hurt you?" she whispered. His jaw clenched. His breathing hitched. His eyes, those terrified eyes, drifted toward the door, then back to her. "They're watching," he whispered. Her pulse skipped. "Who?" she whispered back. His answer was a soft, cracked breath. "My brother." She froze. His brother? The media had always talked about the billionaire's younger brother. Charming, successful, smiling for cameras. A man the public adored. But yesterday, the bracelet she saw, the men, the way they acted. Suddenly it all clicked. Her breath caught. "Your brother did this to you?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. He blinked once. Slowly. Meaningfully. "Yes." Her knees nearly buckled. "But why?" she whispered. He struggled. His chest rose and fell hard, as if every word was a climb. He wants everything. Everything. The empire. The money. The control. And if the billionaire was out of the way. Her stomach twisted violently. She leaned closer. "What do you need me to do?" He squeezed her hand, weak but urgent. "Don't trust." "Clarkson," he rasped. Her breath hitched. The door opened. She jerked back instinctively. One of the suit-wearing men walked in. "Nurse," he said quietly, "we need to run some tests. You can go." Her hand slipped from the billionaire's. His eyes widened slightly, fear flashing inside them. But she couldn't stay, not without provoking the men who controlled this floor. She forced a steady nod and stepped out. As soon as she reached the elevator, her entire body trembled. Her palms were wet. Her breath thin. She took the elevator down, but instead of returning to the ward, she walked outside the hospital into the cold morning air and sat on a concrete bench. Her mind raced. His brother. Dr. Clarkson. The men. The warning. The crash. The coma. Everything. She couldn't go to the police. They would ask for proof she didn't have. She couldn't tell the hospital. They were compromised. She had no family with power. No money. No influence. Just the truth. And the truth was dangerous. She looked up at the hospital building, its windows glinting in the sun like cold eyes. She was just one nurse. A poor nurse. And yet, for some reason, the billionaire trusted her. Enough to hold her. Enough to warn her. Enough to whisper his darkest fear to her alone. She felt something shift inside her. Responsibility. Fear. Courage. She didn't know which one would win. But she knew one thing. She couldn't walk away. Not now. Not after what she'd seen. Not after what he told her. Somewhere inside that private ward, a billionaire's life was hanging by a thread. And she might be the only one left holding it. The nurse returned home that evening feeling like her shadow wasn't her own anymore. Every step she took, every sound behind her, every car that slowed near the curb, all of it made her heart thump painfully. She double-checked her front door twice before locking it. Only when she leaned her back against the door did she realize she hadn't taken a full breath in hours. She slid down to the floor, hugging her knees. Everything she thought she understood about her job, her patients, her quiet life, it had all changed in less than 24 hours. The billionaire wasn't just a patient who miraculously woke up. He was a target. And she, for reasons she couldn't understand, had been pulled into the center of his danger. She forced herself to stand and walked into her small kitchen. She brewed tea, hoping the warmth would calm her nerves, but her hands shook so badly she spilled half the water. She didn't try again. Instead, she walked to her bedroom and opened her old wooden wardrobe. Inside, on the top shelf, sat a small metal box. She hadn't opened it in years. She brought it to her bed, sat down, and carefully removed the lid. Inside were the things she had hoped she'd never have to see again. Documents from her past nursing internship, the one that ended in tragedy, the one where she reported malpractice and almost lost her career. She had been young, barely 21, when she exposed a senior nurse for covering up patient neglect. No one had believed her. No one had protected her. She'd been suspended and nearly expelled from the program. She survived only because one person had spoken on her behalf. Her late mother. "Never stay silent when someone needs you," her mother had said. "Even if it scares you." Her mother's voice rang in her mind now. The nurse swallowed hard and closed the box. She knew what she had to do. She was going back to the hospital. The night shift always felt different, quieter, colder, lonelier. When she walked back into the hospital, the receptionist looked up in surprise. "Aren't you off shift?" he asked. "I left something," she said quickly. "Just going to get it." She didn't wait for a reply. She took the elevator to the 8th floor, her heart pounding with every level she passed. When the doors opened, the hallway looked the same: dim lights, silence, and two men in suits. She recognized them immediately. Bracelet Man. And the man with the cold stare. She swallowed and approached cautiously. "You again?" Cold stare at. "I'm just here to check on the patient," she said, keeping her voice steady. Dr. Clarkson requested updated vitals from every nurse who was part of the response team yesterday. It was a lie, but she had to try. Cold stare studied her silently. Bracelet Man typed on his tablet again. "I don't see any instructions," he said. Her throat tightened. She prepared to turn away. Then a voice echoed from inside the ward. "Let her in." Dr. Clarkson. He stepped forward, holding the door open. The nurse walked inside, careful not to show her fear. Dr. Clarkson's expression was unreadable. "You work too much," he muttered. "I needed to update some information," she said. "On whose authority?" She hesitated. "His," she replied, nodding toward the billionaire. Dr. Clarkson's jaw tightened. "He is not capable of giving instructions." Her eyes met his, calm but sharp. He woke up once. It may happen again. A flicker of worry crossed his face before he masked it behind cold professionalism. "Don't get too comfortable," he said. "You may go." As she turned toward the bed, Dr. Clarkson re-entered another room, leaving her alone. The billionaire was awake. His eyes were open, staring at the ceiling. Slow breaths rose from his chest. Machines hummed softly around him. The nurse stepped closer. "I came back," she whispered. His eyes shifted toward her. Relief washed across his face. She moved to the side of the bed. "I don't have long. Tell me what you need." His voice came out in thin, uneven whispers. "My tablet." "Your tablet?" He nodded weakly and gestured, with great difficulty, toward a small drawer in the cabinet attached to the bed. The nurse opened it. Nothing. She searched the second drawer. Still nothing. The billionaire's breathing sped up. "They took it." "What was on it?" she asked. His eyes glistened with a mix of anger and fear. Everything. Everything. That word again, heavy, dangerous, loaded. Financial records? She guessed. He shook his head. Evidence. Her pulse skipped. What kind of evidence? She whispered. He forced the words out slowly, painfully. My brother sabotaged the car. Her stomach dropped. The crash. The coma. The fear. All of it made sense now. You had proof? She whispered. He blinked weakly. Video, files, emails, voice notes. Her breath caught. And it's all gone? She asked. He closed his eyes in agony. They think they won. She leaned in closer. But you're awake now. You can talk. You can testify. His eyes opened again, fearful, pleading. No, he whispered. They won't let me leave this hospital. Her blood ran cold. She swallowed hard. Then I'll help you. Whatever it takes. He stared at her, eyes softening with trust. A trust she didn't fully understand, but felt deeply. You're the only one who listened, he whispered. Suddenly, voices echoed in the hallway. Heavy footsteps. Multiple. The nurse's breath hitched. The billionaire's eyes widened in panic. Go, he whispered fiercely. Now. She backed away slowly, then slipped out the side door connecting the private suite to the storage room. She pressed her ear against the wall. Voices filled the billionaire's room. Deep voices. Angry voices. Men's voices. One of them, the cold, steady tone, was unmistakable. His brother. Her chest tightened. She couldn't make out all the words, but the pieces she heard made her heart slam against her ribs. Awake again? No one must know. Finish this. Finish this. Her blood froze. She clamped a hand over her mouth to keep from gasping. Her legs trembled. Sweat formed at the back of her neck. She had to get out. She had to think. She had to survive. Silently, she backed away and slipped into the hallway through the rear exit. But as she reached the elevator, her phone vibrated. Another unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A whisper filled her ear. They know you're there. The line went dead. Her vision blurred with panic. Someone was watching her. Someone who knew her every move. And she was running out of time. The nurse didn't remember pressing the elevator button. She didn't remember stepping inside. She didn't remember the descent. All she remembered was the voice on the phone whispering. They know you're there. Her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the phone. She looked at the elevator camera, feeling watched, exposed, trapped in a moving metal box. When the doors finally opened at the ground floor, she stumbled out, heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. She didn't go to the staff lounge. She didn't clock out. She didn't speak to anyone. She went straight outside. The night air slapped her skin, cold and sharp. She forced herself to breathe, leaning against a lamp post until the dizziness slowed. They know you're there. Her chest tightened. Whoever called her wasn't guessing. They were sure. Which meant someone was keeping track of her movements. Someone inside the hospital. She glanced up at the wide building, every window lit like a watchful eye. She felt incredibly small. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Her stomach twisted. She almost didn't answer, but her thumb moved on its own. Hello, she whispered. Static. Then a low voice, older, steadier, spoke. You're in danger. Leave the hospital now. They're coming. The nurse jerked upright, fear prickling her skin. Who is this? Please, tell me who this is. But the line went dead. She felt tears sting her eyes. Why me? She whispered. Why am I involved? She was nobody. Just a nurse from a poor background. Just someone who showed up to work every day trying to save lives quietly. And yet here she was, entangled in a billionaire's nightmare. She backed away from the hospital and crossed the street. The city lights blurred through her tears as she walked, trying to gather her thoughts. If they were watching her, she couldn't go home. If they were monitoring her, she couldn't go back inside. If they were listening, she couldn't talk to anyone. She had one person she could call, someone she trusted, someone who had no stake in the hospital. Her cousin, Melanie. She dialed. Girl, where have you been? Melanie's voice exploded through the phone. "I've been texting you all day. You disappeared." "Mel," the nurse whispered, voice cracking, "I need to come to your place." Concern replaced excitement in Melanie's voice. "Are you okay?" "No. Not even close. I need a place to stay tonight." "Say less. Get here now." The nurse felt her knees weaken in relief. She hung up and flagged a taxi. But before she got in, something caught her eye. A black SUV, parked across the street. Engine running. 3 men inside. Her breath hitched. Cold stare was in the passenger seat. She stumbled back, heart slamming against her ribs. The back window rolled down. Bracelet man looked out at her. The nurse's blood went ice cold. She turned and bolted into the nearest alley. "Shy," a voice shouted behind her. Footsteps thundered. They were coming for her. She ran harder, lungs burning, shoes slipping on gravel. The alley split into 2 paths. She didn't think, just turned right and kept running. Their footsteps grew louder. She reached a fence. Too high to climb. "No, no, no," she gasped. A fire door. She grabbed the handle and yanked. It opened. She ran inside the back of a restaurant kitchen. Workers shouted, confused, but she didn't slow down. She tore through the kitchen, out the front door, and into a busy street filled with people. Safety in crowds. She kept walking, blending in as best she could, hands trembling, heart racing. By the time she reached Melanie's apartment building, her legs felt numb. She knocked weakly. Melanie opened the door with a warm, tight hug. "Come inside. You're shaking." The nurse stepped in and locked the door behind her. Once she was seated on the couch, Melanie knelt in front of her. "Talk to me. What happened?" The nurse broke down into tears she'd been holding since the billionaire grabbed her in that hospital room. She told Melanie everything. The awakening. The warning. The brother. The corporate men. The phone calls. The threats. Tonight's chase. Melanie didn't interrupt. She didn't ask for evidence. She simply held her hands, eyes wide with fear. "Girl, this is serious." "I know," the nurse whispered. "Have you called the police?" "I can't. Clarkson is involved. Men in suits control the hospital. If his brother has this much money, he probably controls officers too." Melanie exhaled slowly. "So what do we do?" The nurse shook her head helplessly. "I don't know." Her phone buzzed again. Both women froze. The nurse picked it up with trembling hands. A new message. No number. Just text. "Do not come back to the hospital. They're planning to move him tonight." Her breath stopped. "Move him? Tonight?" Then another message came seconds later. "If they move him, he will not survive the night." The nurse's pulse roared in her ears. "They're going to kill him," she whispered, voice shaking violently. "They're going to finish what they started." Melanie covered her mouth. "So what are you going to do?" The nurse stared at her screen through blurred eyes. She didn't feel brave. She didn't feel powerful. She didn't feel like a hero. She felt terrified. But she also felt responsible. If she did nothing, the billionaire would die. If she did nothing, no one would know the truth. If she did nothing, his brother would win. Melanie squeezed her hands. "Say it. Out loud." The nurse swallowed. "I have to save him." Outside the apartment, across the street, a figure stood in the shadows beside a street lamp. Watching. Waiting. Monitoring. The nurse didn't know it yet, but she wasn't the only one preparing for tonight. If this story has pulled you in, remember to hit the like button and subscribe for more powerful tales like this. And tell us, what would you do if you were in her situation? Share your thoughts in the comments. Melanie paced the living room, running both hands through her braids while the nurse sat rigid on the couch, staring at the last message on her phone as if it were a live grenade. "If they move him tonight, he will not survive the night." It played over and over in her mind, digging into her chest. Melanie finally stopped pacing. "We need a plan. A real plan. We can't walk into a trap." The nurse swallowed. "I know. But if they kill him tonight, everything he tried to tell me, will vanish." Melanie nodded slowly. "So what do you need from me?" The nurse hesitated, A way into the hospital that those men won't expect. Melanie raised an eyebrow. You're thinking about sneaking in? I have to. The nurse's voice cracked. I can't let them finish him. Melanie breathed out sharply. Then let's be smart. She grabbed her phone. I know someone who works security on the loading dock. Back entrance. Hardly used at night. The nurse's eyes widened. That's too dangerous. Girl, you're basically planning a rescue mission. You need help. And he owes me a favor. Before the nurse could argue, Melanie dialed. A low baritone answered. Yo. It's Mel. Listen, I need something, and it's important. The nurse watched as Melanie explained, leaving out the billionaire's name but hinting at danger. Hakeem remained quiet for a long moment. Then he said, be at the alley behind East Wing in 1 hour. I'll leave the door unlatched. 5 minutes. That's all I can risk. Melanie ended the call. The nurse's hands shook. We could get him in trouble. No, Melanie said firmly. We're getting him involved in saving a life. 1 hour later, the nurse and Melanie stood in the dark alley behind the hospital's east wing. Trash bins lined the brick wall. A flickering light buzzed overhead. The city's noise felt far away here, muted, tense, dangerous. The nurse tugged her hoodie lower. I'm scared. You should be, Melanie whispered. But that's what bravery is. Doing it anyway. The nurse breathed out slowly. They spotted the metal service door, just slightly open at the bottom. Hakeem had kept his word. Melanie squeezed her hand. I'll wait outside. If anything goes wrong, call me. I'll call backup. Who's backup? The nurse asked. But Melanie only smiled tightly. Just go. The nurse slipped inside. The hospital at night felt like a maze of shadows. She moved quietly down a service hallway she had never been in, dim, cold, lined with storage rooms. Her footsteps echoed softly. Somewhere far away, a machine beeped rhythmically, but the east wing itself was empty. She reached the intersection that led toward the 8th floor elevators and froze. 2 men were talking around the corner. Voices low. Serious. Transport arranged. The brother wants no mistakes. No witnesses this time. Her blood chilled. Transport. Tonight. No witnesses. She crept backward, careful not to make a sound. She slipped into a supply room just as their footsteps approached. Through the narrow slit of the door, she saw them, a pair of the same suited men from earlier. Their eyes were sharp, their expressions cold. Predators. They passed by, unaware she was feet away. She waited until their footsteps faded. Then she moved. She took the back staircase instead of the elevator and climbed each step slowly, quietly, terrified of every creak. When she finally reached the 8th floor, she paused behind the stairwell door, listening. Silence. She cracked the door open. The hallway was dimmer than usual, lit by only a few bulbs. That was strange. The VIP wing never had low lighting. She moved silently toward the billionaire's private room. But as she neared the door, she stopped breathing. 2 new men stood outside the room. Bigger, broader, darker suits. Hands clasped in front, not casually, but like trained guards. This wasn't hospital security. This was private security. And not the good kind. She ducked behind a decorative divider and watched them closely. One guard leaned toward the other. We move him in 20 minutes. Boss wants him sedated before transport. Sedated. Her stomach dropped. That wasn't a medical transfer. That was the final step before disappearing someone entirely. She couldn't wait. She had to act now. She scanned the hall, thinking fast. She couldn't fight those men. She didn't have weapons. She didn't have strength. She didn't have any backup inside. But she had one advantage. She knew how hospitals worked. She slipped into the room across from the billionaire's, a vacant VIP suite, and opened the supply cabinet. Inside, spare gowns for poles, gloves, emergency kits. Then her eyes landed on something she never expected to find. A maintenance uniform. A jumpsuit. Dark gray. Hospital logo. ID tag. Someone must have left it after cleaning earlier. She grabbed it. Seconds later, She stepped into the hallway disguised as a night maintenance worker, cap tucked low, posture slouched. Her heart pounded violently as she approached the billionaire's room. One guard looked up. "Hey, no cleaning here." "Order from Clarkson," she muttered, keeping her voice low, rough. "Said room 804 needs equipment check before transfer." The man frowned. "Equipment? This room has the best." "Tell him that," she snapped, mimicking the tired irritation she'd heard maintenance staff use 100 times. "He's the one giving orders." The guard exchanged a look with the other. Then he unlocked the door. 5 minutes, he grunted. The nurse slipped inside. The door shut behind her. She exhaled shakily, then turned. The billionaire lay in the bed. Awake. Barely. Breathing shallow. But his eyes opened when he heard her steps. Recognition. Relief. Fear. She pulled off the cap. "It's me." His eyes widened. She hurried to his side. "I don't have much time. They're planning to move you. Tonight. It's not a patient transfer, they're trying to get rid of you." He swallowed weakly. "Take me out?" "I will," she whispered. "But I need your help." He blinked slowly. She reached up and disconnected the smallest monitor, one that wouldn't set off alarms. Then she adjusted the force slightly, something she'd learned in training. A tiny sedation drip had been added. She gasped. They were already preparing him. She pulled the line out carefully. "I won't let them drug you." His breathing steadied. "Listen," she whispered. "We have 2 minutes. Can you move?" He tried to lift his hand. It rose an inch, then trembled back down. The nurse closed her eyes. "Then I'll move you." She raised the bed slowly and helped him sit up, supporting all his weight with her arms. He leaned heavily on her, his breath warm against her shoulder. His voice cracked. "Why are you risking this?" "Because you trusted me," she whispered. "And no one else will help you." She helped him swing his legs over the side of the bed. She grabbed the walker from the corner. Then the doorknob clicked. Her heart stopped. Voices outside. "We're here to sedate him now." The nurse's eyes went wide. They were early. She grabbed the billionaire's arm. "We have to go. Now." The hallway outside was no longer empty. It was a trap. The door handle twisted. The nurse froze, gripping the billionaire's arm, her breath caught somewhere deep in her chest. She wasn't ready. He wasn't ready. Nothing about this moment was ready. But the danger was already on the other side of the door. She scanned the room in a panic, every corner, every object, every possibility. The window. 8 floors above ground. No way. The bathroom. A dead end. The closet. Too small for 2. The ceiling vent. Impossible. The voices outside grew sharper. "Sedation team, open up. We're coming in." Sedation team. They weren't pretending anymore. The nurse's eyes darted to the rolling tray beside the bed. A metal instrument tray with a thick linen cover. And then she looked at the billionaire. "We're going to hide you," she whispered. "It'll hurt. But it's the only way." He blinked once, slow, trusting. She grabbed the tray, removed the linen, and quickly repositioned it near the curtains separating the room into sections. Using every bit of her strength, she eased him into a slumped sitting position behind the curtain, tucked him low, and draped the linen across the walker and over his head, making it look like a pile of equipment beneath the dim lighting. She rolled the tray slightly in front of him to mask his shape. Her heart hammered, sweat dripping down her neck. Then she walked quickly to the bed, ruffled the sheets, and pressed the nurse call button. The door opened. 4 men stepped inside. 2 in scrubs. 2 in suits. Cold Stare and Bracelet Man. Her entire body tensed. Cold Stare scanned the room. "Where is he?" The nurse forced herself to breathe. "He's restless." "Bathroom." The 2 men in scrubs moved toward the bathroom door. "No talking," Bracelet Man muttered as he passed her. She stood frozen beside the bed, shoulders trembling under her maintenance uniform. The scrubs team opened the bathroom door. Empty. The nurse's heart lurched. "He was just there," she said quickly. "He said he needed a moment. Maybe he—" But Cold Stare had already moved to the curtain. He lifted the edge. The nurse's pulse stopped. He looked at the tray. The linen. The shadows behind it. He let the curtain fall. Cleaners leave their junk everywhere, he muttered. She nearly collapsed with relief. The two sedators returned. He's not here. Cold Stare stepped close to the nurse, invading her space, his breath warm and poisonous. If you're lying, I'll know. She swallowed hard. Why would I lie? His eyes didn't blink. Because he woke for you. And that makes you valuable or dangerous. He turned to his men. Search the hallway. Everyone filed out except one guard, who lingered at the threshold, staring at her as if memorizing every detail of her face. Finally, he shut the door. The nurse collapsed to her knees, shaking so violently she couldn't speak. Behind the curtain, the billionaire trembled as he pulled the linen off his head, breath ragged, eyes filled with terror and gratitude at once. We don't have time, she whispered. They'll be back. She helped him stand, his legs weak, his weight heavy. They moved toward the rear staff corridor she had entered through. But as soon as they reached the small door leading to the maintenance hallway, a loud alarm blared through the floor. Code red. Patient missing. Secure all exits. The nurse's stomach dropped. They knew. Footsteps thundered from both ends of the hall. Come on, she urged. They slipped through the back door, and she dragged it shut just as a group of men stormed past on the other side. The maintenance hallway was dark, long, and filled with pipes overhead. She supported the billionaire with all the strength she had left. The sound of pounding boots filled the floor above them. Hold on, she whispered. We're almost there. But halfway down the corridor, a figure stepped out of the shadows. Wearing a hospital coat. Dr. Clarkson. Her blood froze. The billionaire sagged heavily against her. Dr. Clarkson stared at them, expression unreadable. Going somewhere? He asked softly. The nurse's throat tightened. Please, don't do this. Dr. Clarkson stepped closer. But then, something changed. As he approached, she saw his hands trembling. His breathing uneven. His eyes red, not with malice now, but conflict. He whispered, I didn't sign up for this. The nurse blinked. Dr. Clarkson looked at the billionaire. I treated you for a year. I watched your brother make every decision. I followed orders I shouldn't have. I was a coward. He stepped aside. Go. The nurse's breath caught. You're helping us? For now, Dr. Clarkson whispered. But hurry. They've locked down all public exits. How do we get out? She asked. He pointed toward a service elevator at the end of the hallway. Basement level. There's an ambulance bay behind the generator room. If you're lucky, security won't think to check it until last. He leaned in, desperate. Please, tell the authorities everything. Then, his voice cracked. Tell them I tried to fix one thing before it was too late. The nurse nodded, tears filling her eyes. She and the billionaire hurried toward the elevator. She jabbed the button repeatedly. Voices shouted in the distance. The elevator dinged open. They slipped inside. The doors closed just as heavy footsteps echoed into the corridor. The descent was agonizing. Every floor felt like a countdown to life or death. The doors opened into the basement, a silent concrete underworld filled with crates, coils of tubing, and the low hum of generators. The nurse half-carried, half-guided the billionaire toward the rear exit. They pushed open the metal door to the ambulance bay. Cold night air rushed in. And then, a black SUV screeched into the lot, blocking their path. The nurse screamed, pulling the billionaire back. But the driver's door opened, and Melanie jumped out. Get in. Now. The nurse's relief hit so hard her knees almost buckled. She shoved the billionaire into the back seat, jumped in after him, and slammed the door. Melanie floored the accelerator before the doors were fully shut. From behind them, shouts echoed. Running footsteps. Security floodlights. The roar of another engine starting. The nurse looked back through the rear window. 2 SUVs burst into pursuit. Melanie, she cried. I see them. Melanie yelled, gripping the wheel. They shot out onto the road, racing through the night as the SUVs chased them with blinding intensity. The billionaire leaned weakly against the nurse, eyes half open. You saved me, he whispered. She held his hand tightly. We're not safe yet. But he shook his head weakly. Still alive, because of you. Her eyes filled with tears. She squeezed his hand harder. Melanie swerved sharply, losing one SUV. The seconds sped after them relentlessly. Hold on. Melanie shouted. She turned abruptly into a narrow street. The SUV behind them tried to follow, hit the corner too fast, and slammed into a pole. The nurse gasped. They sped off into the night, leaving danger behind for the first time. She looked down at the billionaire, breathing weakly, but alive. Finally alive. And safe. For now. She whispered softly, we'll finish this. I promise. The billionaire's eyes closed in exhausted relief. But his fingers squeezed hers one last time. Tight. Grateful. Alive. If you reached the end of this story, thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe, leave a like, and share this video with someone who loves emotional African stories. And tell us in the comments, what would you have done in her situation? We're waiting to read your thoughts.